Once again, it is a Tuesday evening, and this week I will not be drafting by myself, but I have brought one of my good friends in the fantasy football space on board, which is Erik Beimfohr. And we are going to be talking about some of the most controversial players during best ball drafts. Not only are we going to be talking about them, we are going to be ranking them. And the one thing we are going to do better than the Swolecast is we are going to drop our intro at the perfect time. Look at how in sync we are. We just absolutely crushed that intro. No pre-rehearsal. You hit the button right when you're supposed to. Why? I ask you, why is it so hard for people to roll the intro?
Well, it's not like I have any other jobs at Roto-Grinders. I'm just here to run the producer, to be the producer for your show. That's all it is. Funny inside joke for the Soulcast people, but that was good. You queued that up really well.
My child was massacred on screen is what it felt like. I make this like the best intro I've made, and all of a sudden it just became what it became, and I was just like, it's just like that scene from The Godfather, like, look what they did to my boy, look what they did to him, and I was quite sad.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about this? Do you want to talk about the taser idea that I have?
We can talk about taser really fast, and then we do have a lot of players to get through. And I'm remembering back to all of our ranking offenses shows where we think it's going to go quicker than it goes. So we can do the taser thing, and then we might as well get into what the people are actually here for after this.
Right. So I have an idea for our next Draft with a Twist show. I found tasers on Amazon. And I think that what we should do is we should draft the best ball team. And every time we draft a wide receiver, one of us has to get tased from the taser.
Oh God. So all I can think about is The Hangover. When I think people get that scene from the Hangover, and they make it look so bad. Getting tased. No, absolutely not, Mo Dog. This is not a great call.
Well, this isn't the shooting one, right? This is the little
So I mean, we just ate, like, I was like sick to my stomach for a couple hours after we did both of the last two things that we did. So I'm very much clearly open to making myself miserable in the theme of these drafts. But I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research on this taser idea. Also, oddly enough, I don't think my wife would do it, but I could probably get a buddy to come do it. And I think it would be funnier if somebody else did it as opposed to me.
Oh yeah, it's got to be someone else, because I will not do it to myself. The craziest thing I've done to myself is throw myself out of an airplane, which I didn't think I had the audacity to do, but I did it.
Yeah. Wait till you see how many fucking running backs I draft when I have to tase myself for a wide receiver.
It better be a good wide receiver. Like, we are not drafting Jacoby Myers in that draft. It's not
that is so funny. When a good friend and Underdog Football Show co-host Hayden Winks has been kind of pushing on Underdog, specifically like drafting, like trying to get people to stop drafting so many wide receivers, basically. And I don't think he's wrong, generally speaking. But he's been very much like, we should draft more quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends. And, I'm still not totally in agreement with that, but I like understand what he's saying. We would go into that draft and I would like pull up Hayden's article and just be like, how few wide receivers can I actually draft Like three. I only got to start 3 of those motherfuckers. Can I just take 3 or
I've
what?
seen people do it. I've been in a draft where it's like this guy's got 4 quarterbacks, 8 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, and I'm just like, all right, buddy. Well, I guess you were. So now we figured out why they got to get tased every time they draft a they draft a wide receiver. So that was an idea I came up with. Just before we get away from it, my favorite part was when I was looking up, like trying to see how much it would actually hurt. The very first question was like, is this a good defense against grizzly bears? And I'm just like, that's what you were worried about getting a taser for? You were like, I gotta stop fighting all these grizzly bears. I think I need a taser.
Yeah, exactly. This is an excellent comment by Modog. Yes, if you do 3-9-3-3, that will be unique. That's true. We can get the uniqueness crowd on our side with the 3 wide receiver build. That was very similar. I mentioned this on the Hot Ones episode that we did on Friday, but it was the same thing. I was trying to do some research on, the specific hot sauce, which I learned later is not actually hot sauce. It's pepper extract that we bought, the Satan's blood. And we bought it off Amazon. So I'm reading all the reviews, and like people are posting video reviews, and the one very similar thing. The guy was like I make award-winning hot sauce. I go everywhere and I do all the hot sauce challenges. I can eat everything that's hot. And then he posted a video of him just doing like a dab of the Satan's blood, and he like he's like on all fours, like crying, like weeping how bad it hurt him. And I was just like, this dude can like suffer through hotter, like I can't even do the weakest stuff thing, like what he eats normal, like when he goes out to eat and gets like hot wings, that's like what would murder me. And this thing we're about to eat just killed that dude. And so that's how I feel about this taser thing. It's like, yeah, I bought this to tame grizzly bears. And so, it's like, what? That doesn't inspire a lot of like hopefulness getting into that draft.
I'm just trying to get away from the food. Like, but people are like addicted to the food things that we're doing. They want more. They're like talking about like throwing shit in a blender, and
that one's bad. That idea made me sick to my stomach just reading the person that typed it in Discord.
Well, joke's on them because my fridge is always empty, so I would win that game. Just absolutely. There's like 3 things in my fridge.
So we have a lot of condiments, not a lot of other stuff, but the dogs are so spoiled. So I make their dog food.
Oh,
we
nice.
do like homemade dog food, and then they're probably gonna perk up when I say this, but their like treat of choice is cheese. Like if I say that word, they'll like run over to me. And so there's cheese and like homemade dog food in the fridge, and like that is like borderline the extent of what is in there, and condiments. So Perfect. We'd be mixing dog food and condiments and cheese together which does not sound appealing at all.
How'd you make out after the hot sauce on Friday and Saturday?
Saturday wasn't as bad as everyone was saying the next day was going to be really bad. But I was okay on Saturday. I didn't have any fiery shits or anything like that. For a little while afterwards on Friday, it was pretty rough. I didn't feel right. My stomach hurt and all that. But
my stomach was killing me after that.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. So in the moment, it was bad. And then for a little while after, it was bad. The 20-minute rule that Bullock was saying is total bullshit. I felt horrible for hours. So that was a lie. I mean, it wasn't hot in my mouth for hours, but like I felt terrible for hours. But the thing that they don't tell you is don't do it. I had told you this. It wasn't actually my niece's birthday on Saturday, but it was like that's when we had like the big family get together on Saturday. She turned 3. And so I go over there and we're like hanging out before we're gonna eat dinner and stuff. And they're like, hey, didn't you eat like some spicy wings yesterday or something? I saw on Twitter that you did something ridiculous or whatever. And they're like, and my brother-in-law pulls it up on the TV in front of my entire family and like fast forward to you and I just eating the like Satan's blood or whatever as we're like dying. And they did enjoy it for what it's worth. But it was also extremely embarrassing that they're watching me work eating,
This is the only
spicy
stuff
wings.
my family's watching is the ones that we just absolutely destroy ourselves. It's like, what are we? I put out all this other great content, and you're just worried about me going blind. So thank
Right.
you.
Yeah, exactly. They did get a kick out of the going blind, like when it somehow got in your eyes without you actually touching your eyes. And my niece, she's 3, so she's watching us be in pain. Is funny to little kids, right? What? And she's like the Uncle Erik, and I'm like, like losing it, and she's just laughing, like she's like clapping and laughing as you're like crying and I'm crying, and like so it was like a small birthday gift to the 3-year-old.
Well, I'm glad we could make that birthday party enjoyable for somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right, so let's talk about what we're doing today. Today, we are going back to our little tier list, and instead of ranking offenses, which shockingly we have to do again, like within a month,
yeah,
which is crazy. Like for the third time, we were planning this out in February, and like boom, it's already here for the last one.
It's crazy.
So today we're going to talk about some of the most controversial players that people are drafting in best ball, where people are arguing about, and blah blah blah. So we have 5 tiers. I put it as rocket ship, people that are underrated that we're drafting at a high clip, basically, or once we talk about, see which of us are. Takeoff potential, they're slightly underrated, but they might even be getting steamed up right now. There's the mid range, which is just the average, like
dreaming of a new home.
What is happening?
Let's compare your way there.
Is that me or you?
Before you buy,
I'm guessing it's this stupid website that you create the tier list on.
Use our regularly updated lists to compare cashback.
Is that playing for you?
Oh, yes, I can hear it.
Our pros and cons help.
Can you hear it now?
No.
All right, I'll suffer through
it. Is that really on your? That's so funny.
It's on the tier list, I guess. Site. I was like, did you get a new drop? Are you calling us nerds? What is happening right now?
That was so good. That's so funny.
All right. So then we have the Yawn, which is the overrated. They're slightly overrated, and the Bahaha, severely overrated. We're not drafting, basically. And we have quite the list here to go through. Accidentally put Trey Lance twice, so we'll only rate him once, but we'll just go through them name by name, and I broke them down by position almost. I was going to do some teams because we have 3 players on 2 different teams here, but let's just start with Trey Lance. Where are you now with him flying up draft boards at this point?
Yeah, he obviously, kind of similar to what we did with the ranking of the offenses. If we had done this earlier in the offseason, he would be very clearly in the top. For me, very clearly in the top, rocket ship, way underrated. He was going outside the top 100 picks early in draft season for really no reason other than people wanted to make up the fact that Jimmy G was still on the team and like a threat, even though that really wasn't true. Or like the probability.
It is still true. He's still on the team.
But the probability that Jimmy G is a threat to Lance's playing time was vastly overrated, basically. And but the market has started to, right now, as most people are getting into draft season, the market has figured out, like, okay, that the idea that Trey Lance is going outside of the top 100 picks was bad, given his upside and, just general profile and the 49er situation, right? It's not even a thing about Trey Lance as a football player. It's like if you dropped any player that runs like he does with a cannon for an arm, was the 3rd overall pick, and gets to play with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Shanahan and an elite offensive line, that's an incredible quarterback pick. What I'm still going to put him right now in the takeoff potential, slightly underrated, because I think he's still in a tier. Again, depending upon the site maybe that you're drafting on. Underdog, we're getting close to pretty efficient price. That's not necessarily the case on every single site, but he's definitely not like rocket ship underrated anymore. But I do think he's still slightly underrated. But it's also because like he goes after still like the Joe Burrows of the world. He goes in the Dak Prescott and Tom Brady tiers. Yeah, for now. But like I'm not saying Lance is gonna be, the QB1, QB2, QB3, but there is a world in which with his rushing and on that offense, he is, the Lamar Jackson, second year MVP. I'm not saying he's going to be the MVP, but that is like within the range. Joe Burrow just doesn't run enough. Dak at his now age and with the injuries doesn't run enough. Tom Brady doesn't run at all. Those guys don't have that ceiling in their range of outcomes. And just by the sheer kind of uncertainty and profile that he has that in his range. And so I still think he's slightly underrated.
I think the problem for me, and it's not just with Lance, like Lance was the meme that we started at the beginning of the offseason, which I attribute that to us because we were doing this first. So kudos to us. But I think Lance is like the epitome of the quarterback issue this year, where everything is getting condensed with quarterback. So yeah, Josh Allen's slightly an outlier right now. But then you get into that 5th round to 9th round and you're just condensing all these guys. Like you have your Lamar, Kyler, and they're still kind of tiers. And then you have like your Brady, Burrow, Lance tier, but it's so close to that other tier draft wise. It's like, are we overcorrecting on this position this year based on, I don't know what caused this shift? It wasn't like a quarterback just like blew the doors off and we were like, we have to get this guy to win tournaments, but I'm buying at the current prices for quarterbacks. So like with Lance, I totally understand because he's like right at that tier end of all of them. So I understand why people are drafting him, but I'm still drafting higher because I'm like, I just think the value of the guys that are like 2 rounds ahead of him, 3 rounds ahead of him, that Mahomes, Lamar, specifically those two, I'm trying to leave a lot of drafts with them, occasionally Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts, like even Jalen Hurts is kind of like Lance, where it's like, geez, man, he's just getting pushed up so high and there's no tier breaks, it feels like. So I totally understand the takeoff potential based on where he's drafting. If this was last year and Lance had the year he had last year, he'd be a 14th rounder this year, like last year. You know what I mean? And then
Market's
I'd be like,
gotten a lot sharper, man, a lot. And to your point, I can't say sharper, but the market has figured out certain things that I do think are generally sharp. I'm not saying we're sharp about Lance specifically, but the quarterback upside thing, like that. I mean, Derek Carr or Trey Lance, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we would have drafted Derek Carr above Trey Lance. Now we've learned, right? Even like Lamar was a 12th round pick the year he won MVP. It was like that. Like that's the Trey Lance. Trey Lance would have gone in the 12th round or 13th round.
Right.
That like he would have been Lamar then. That doesn't exist anymore because we're smarter now.
So this brings us into Tua, who actually might be the one guy that is benefiting from all of this because he's going probably in terms of market value to quarterbacks. He might be severely underrated based just on the market for quarterbacks. Like he's going where he would have went last year, where everyone else is getting pushed up kind of. So like right now, I think that there is serious takeoff potential on him, potentially rocket ship, like severely underrated if that offense goes at all. Where you can draft him at this moment in time.
Tua has to be one of the most polarizing. Actually, I don't think anybody would have thought this coming into when we were like doing the controversial guys or whatever. Cause like, I actually don't think what are quote unquote controversial guys. I really don't think most of them are very controversial at all. It's just, Twitter memes, these guys. And we're, like you said, we're a little bit a part of that. It's fun to fuck around and joke with the people on Twitter. But I actually think Tua is one of the best examples of like, we have this guy who has basically no track record in the NFL, but fantasy football drafters have decided based on the minimal sample that we've seen that they know what he is. And if we rewind just a few years and we go back to Tua at Alabama, he was the second coming. He was better than Trevor Lawrence in college. He actually came in and stole. Literally, Alabama had to bench Jalen Hurts, who we're now drafting in the 6th round or whatever of best ball drafts. They had to bench Jalen Hurts in a national championship game and put freshman Tua into the game to bring them back and come, in a national championship game. Then he proceeds to just, obviously, he had Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle and all these guys at Alabama, but he proceeded to set the world on fire, Jerry Jeudy, etc. And he got hurt. He had a very serious injury, which is something we obviously have to account for. And then came into the NFL with no one to fucking throw to besides Jalen Waddle and a tight end, and dusty ass Devontae Parker. And Mac Hollins and Durham Smythe and a horrible offensive line and just a generally bad situation. And he was actually super accurate, was a fairly fine NFL quarterback. And we've just decided that he's Matt Ryan or whatever for fantasy. We've just called him Matt Ryan. And I don't really think it's fair. I think we have a guy who was the 5th overall pick in the NFL draft, was one of the best college quarterbacks in the last several years. And we have just written him off really, really fast. And now he has a great offensive play caller with fucking Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and whatever you think about Cedric Wilson and Mike Gesicki and a lot of talent. And so I'm still going to put him in slightly underrated because I just don't think there's enough true pure ceiling to be rocket ship. But I keep kind of coming back to Tua and being man, I really don't have enough of Tua. And it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense what we've done to him as a market.
The only thing I'll say about Tua and specifically the Miami Dolphins is just based on, and I have no statistical evidence to back this up. So if you don't want to listen to this, don't. But every year or every other year, we get this team where we look at it and on paper, they look like they are going to just absolutely blow up, right? They're going to be this amazing team. The Eagles were at 10 years ago, the year that they got Nnamdi Asomugha, they had they were considered the, creative team on Madden.
Yep.
And they sucked. And it doesn't matter about the talent if it doesn't mesh well. Sometimes once a guy gets paid, hint, hint, Tyreek Hill, things just don't.
Hint, Leonard Fournette showing up at an offensive lineman. It's damn.
Yeah, showing up like a walrus at Tampa Bay Buccaneers camp. Speaking of waddling, so I really Tyreek just feels like that guy, man. He got paid. This dude is going to go out there. He's going to bang up an arm or something. And I could be completely wrong. I have nothing to back this up on. But he hurts his arm a little bit. He's yep, done for the season. Got to pay me now. Bye. It just really feels like Miami has a potential to we look at, we're what the hell happened to this team? They had such great upside and they are, 3-11 towards the end of the year, going into the last weeks of the season. And we're just Jesus, man. So I'm drafting Tua here and there because I'm drafting a Patriots running back very consistently, whether it's Damian Harris, whether it's Ramondre Stevenson. I'm grabbing one or the other, especially with the James White news. It just looks like it's going to be a 2-man backfield, and I honestly don't care which one I get. I think they're both going to be fine for the year, and I think
I hope it's Ramondre. God, I hope it's Ramondre.
Well, everybody does, right? That's what everyone does. But even Damian Harris at the 8th round, 9th round, sometimes when I go 0 RB, he's my first running back, and I feel great about it, to be perfectly honest. So just to get that game stack, the reverse game stack of waiting on Tua and Gesicki sometimes if I don't have Waddle and Tyreek, I can get that game stack late and I'm okay with it. So
really quick before we move on, just Modog is there's some really good comments actually in the chat, and Modog was just saying in that tier where he is, I don't have I actually don't disagree generally speaking. If you subscribe to Spike Week, you see the rankings and you know that particularly Daniel Jones is very high in the rankings. So I'm not going to make an argument for even Daniel Jones, Lawrence, Zach Wilson, if you really want to dip into the deep guys, I don't think that they're that crazily different than Tua, but I just think that as a market in general, why is Tua different than Trevor Lawrence is throwing to Marvin Jones and Zay Jones and Christian Kirk and was basically the same prospect as Trevor Lawrence. Tua and Trevor Lawrence are basically the same prospects. One has Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Mike Gesicki, and probably a smarter coach. And the other one has Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones. And so I just think it's a weird thing that the whole world has like dunked on Tua. And I agree generally, like the median outcome is probably he's not a super high upside guy or whatever, but I don't think that covers his full range of outcomes. Like I think his real range of outcomes is he's what? A Matthew Stafford type. Maybe like he's a little bit more athletic than Stafford. You might get a little more rushing, right? But like, or Joe Burrow. Why can't he be Joe Burrow? Why can't he be Joe Burrow for fantasy? He has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. What's the fucking difference? Other than Joe Burrow's done it so far and Tua hasn't. So I just think he has the potential to be that like fringe-ish top 5 guy. I don't know what percentage I would put on that. And if you like Trevor Lawrence better, I think that's fine. There's a little more rushing, but I just think generally speaking, Tua is one of those guys that I'm happy we talked about here because we kind of like stopped talking about him and he's like kind of really interesting actually for fantasy.
Yeah. And it's just for me, it all is based on his ADP. So like for him to be my second quarterback a lot of the times is more than fine with me. If I'm doing exactly what I said on the backdoor game stack for them, I'm not like going overboard with them, but I'm definitely drafting Tua.
Also, like I did a late round quarterback draft on this channel, and Tua was my QB1, and I think it was Tua, Daniel Jones, and Mac, maybe something like that. But it was something like that, and I really like that grouping of like, okay, Daniel Jones is like he probably sucks ass, but like there's some rushing upside and Dayball and Giants, whatever, and then Tua who has this what we just talked about, and then Mac who like. It was good last year. The Patriots should be good. He has a lot of weapons, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of mix those things together. I love using Tua in some of those builds. And I just don't think people are really doing that, and so I think that's maybe an edge.
I can't disagree. Let's start talking about some running backs. And
oh, boy.
Let's start with Travis Etienne. Sell me on 3rd round Travis Etienne. You couldn't sell me on 5th round. Gretch couldn't sell me on 5th round Travis Etienne. Explain to me why I should be drafting Travis Etienne in the 3rd round, specifically if we want to get real nuts on underdog.
I'll be honest. The 3rd round thing, the fact how steamed he got so fast was crazy to me. Like, and I like him. I was drafting him in the 5th round. If he was going in the 5th round right now, we'd probably have like a knockdown drag out fight on this, about Travis Etienne, because he's the exact archetype of a 5th round, 6th round running back that I want to take. Really talented, 1st round pick, blah, blah, blah. Pass catching profile, uncertainty, upside, all that shit. But I don't really understand why we just decided that he gets to be in the Connor, Fournette, Chubb, Akers group of running backs all of a sudden. I think his ceiling case is the Jaguars version of Alvin Kamara, which is awesome. And that's why that's why people are drafting him in the 3rd round. That's like what I always come back to with him. But like, you have to pay for ceiling. So I've already luckily drafted some ETN. I don't necessarily want to go like the rest of the way with 0 ETN, but he's absolutely to me in the one of the bottom 2. For me, it's slightly overrated, but you're really paying a premium now for that he's Alvin Kamara and what is Alvin Kamara on the Jaguars? Like, that
was going to be my comment. That was going to be mine. It's if we're ceiling Alvin Kamara was, slightly past his prime, Drew Brees, who was still getting it done at an elite
pretty
level.
Close to peak Drew Brees still. Pretty close.
Right.
MVP,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so he's still towards the top. That offense was humming. I'm drafting a shitload of Christian Kirk. Like, I have a lot of Christian Kirk. I think the Jaguars offense is going to be good, but I just think they're going to be good.
Yeah.
So what is the actual ceiling of Travis Etienne? What is his actual opportunity going to be? And I don't think they're going to treat him like a complete 3-down back. To you?
No. So that's the thing that I don't think is in the range of outcomes. That's why I say the Alvin Kamara thing, because I think it's like peak ceiling Alvin Kamara is when he's getting 75 or 80% of the snaps, but he's playing passing. He's like a focal point of the passing game, and he's obviously getting goal line carries and all that. And that is what you're hoping for with ETN. But like my assumption is James Robinson will not be ready to start the season. But I don't envision any scenario in which Travis Etienne is Christian McCaffrey or whatever, Christian McCaffrey light. He's not that fucking good. He's not Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is I love when our friend Ben Gretsch talks. Christian McCaffrey is like an elite wide receiver who just so happens to play running back and also get carries and stuff. Mm-hmm. Travis Etienne has the ability to catch passes. He's not an elite like pass catcher. The funny thing that people don't realize, I think, about Travis Etienne is in college, he had to bust his ass to like even learn how to catch passes. He was a awful receiver. Like his hands are not, he is not a natural. He'll talk about it. Google it. There's like interviews where he's like, yep, I had to work like crazy on the jugs machine and at practice and everything because I don't have naturally good hands. That's not a good sign for like, I want this dude to be Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara if he's like not a good receiver. And so that's the hope still. But I think we've really pushed him up to a range where I still like him, like if we're not talking about cost, but man, the price is pretty stiff.
And that Les Frank, it was the Les Frank, right? That's what he had for the injury.
Yeah, Les Frank. Yeah, which is not good. It's not a good.
Yeah, and like so, like everything worries me about him. It's like I'm just passing on ETN. Like I know I have sub 10%, and I probably have sub 5%. Like I definitely don't have close to 10%. It might be like 2%. I should have pulled up my numbers on some of these guys. I might the next time you start.
I'll pull up mine.
Yeah. So where are we putting him?
I think slightly overrated. I don't think overrated on a guy when we start out with Alvin Kamara is his ceiling case. A 23-year-old Alvin Kamara. I don't want to put him in no, but he's not in the upper half for sure.
See, like he's closer to a no to me than to mid, but I'm fine with putting him in the yawn category. All right, J.K. Dobbins is currently going in like the 5th round. There's been some commotion about people reporting that he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the year, and he clapped back on Twitter like, just come to me next time. I'm probably going to be ready for the start of the year. Like that whole nonsense. I mean, even if he is ready, do we think 5th round for his player profile is, especially on the team? Like I know the team he's playing on is like one of the run heaviest in the league, right? But when we say that the Baltimore Ravens are one of the run heaviest in the league, that doesn't just mean that J.K. Dobbins is running. That means that Lamar Jackson is running. That means that Gus Edwards is going to be getting carries as well. And they brought in Mike Davis for some reason.
And drafted Tyler Beatty.
And drafted Tyler Beatty. So, like, I don't know what to do specifically with the entire backfield. The only thing I've been doing with the backfield is on 0 RB builds. When I'm taking a lot of the rookie running backs, I'm grabbing Gus Edwards late just for some early season points, basically. Like, and I don't love it.
And it's not, you're not out of points late in the season. Gus Edwards can still score 2 touchdowns in week 17, but you're definitely locked into some early season points for sure.
Right. So like J.K. Dobbins, I'm not cold fading, but again, I like him a little better than ETN, but it's almost the same thing for me where it's like coming off this injury, that offensive opportunity is going to be limited. I don't think they're going to hand it off to him at the goal line. And even if they did, Lamar's taking some of that opportunity anyways. What do we think is actually J.K. Dobbins' ceiling? I think ETN's ceiling is obviously higher than Dobbins, in my opinion. And I know he's going a little later, but it's like, so then why am I looking at Dobbins? What build? Sometimes I'm looking at these guys, I'm like, what build makes sense for J.K. Dobbins? If I'm going 0 RB, I don't want to take a guy in the 5th round. Like, I'm grabbing wide receivers at that point. And
or
if
quarterbacks.
Right, or quarterbacks a lot of the time, to be honest, in that range. And if I'm going with more of a hero, it's the same idea. If I'm going with some sort of hyper fragile, I've already gotten probably my 3 running backs most likely by the 4th round. Sometime, I mean, I don't know who in the 5th I'd be taking unless Akers slipped, which he doesn't anymore. So, like, when do you take J.K. Dobbins, I guess is my question.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of sentiment around the whole industry that, like, oh, J.K. Dobbins is crazy underpriced. This is the time to buy, whatever. And I'm back and forth on that. What I will say is I do think this is the time to buy on J.K. Dobbins. And so I was just looking to your point about I should have looked at my exposures. I have 5% J.K. Dobbins across Best Ball Mania and the DraftKings Millie Maker, but it has been at this current in the 60s or whatever. And so I think that what that basically indicates for me is like a mid. He's an average guy who I think we probably overpriced before because he's good at football. And I understand that is absolutely a part of this whole thing. He's on a run first team. He's a very good runner. That is good. That's a little bit more valuable on underdog specifically. But I think generally speaking, there's really not a scenario, I don't think, in which he's like this workhorse league winner, just 20 carries and 8 targets, and like none of like that is not in his range of outcomes. That is in the range of outcomes for Travis Etienne. We just kind of shit on Etienne a little bit, but it's at least in the right 23-year-old Alvin Kamara on a good offense is in the range of outcomes. Dobbins, I still want to draft. So that's why I'm saying like average at this cost. I want to have some J.K. Dobbins. He's really good. The market has depressed him because of this injury thing. And I think that he might be fine. And it's the Ravens. I mean, he could have 100. He's really good. He could have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in any given week. But I don't think he's like underpriced by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, I'm gonna overrule you on this one, and I'm gonna put him in the yawn category. Our next guy is Javonte Williams, and I think we can get this one quick. To me, he's a rocket ship. Like, I love this offense. I understand people are worried about the Melvin Gordon thing, but I think we saw that Denver was okay with losing Melvin Gordon in the offseason, even though he did re-sign. They were willing to let him walk, and so I think the whole plan is that Javonte Williams is going to be the guy, and that doesn't mean that Melvin Gordon's not going to get any opportunity or anything like that. The NFL is evolving. We don't have bell cows much like we used to. It's real rare. So I think he's going to get most of the opportunity. I think the offense is going to be high octane. The opportunity is going to be there. I don't know how you're not smashing him most of the time in like the late 2nd, early 3rd.
Yeah, you can get him in the 3rd now. No one's gonna I'll never fight somebody saying that Javonte is underrated if anybody knows me. The crazy thing, just to piggyback on what you said really quick, this whole idea of like sharing the backfield and like splitting work is so disingenuous, like in terms of analysis. It's like Alvin Kamara, everybody's saying Alvin Kamara is like, he's not going to get suspended. He's a 3rd round pick. We got to smash the draft button on Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round. But like he's gonna, like, there's never a scenario in which he's not in the timeshare. Right. Even if other guys get hurt.
Right.
At least for Javonte, it's like if Melvin gets hurt, he's going to play like 98% of snaps. Right. That doesn't exist for Alvin Kamara. That doesn't exist for Nick Chubb. That doesn't exist for a lot of other backs. And that doesn't exist for Joe Mixon, who goes at the 1-2 turn. The whole split backfield thing is so disingenuous. And Javonte now goes in the 3rd round where again, quoting our friend Ben Gretsch, he coined this, and I've stolen this, and I use this like every day. That Javonte to me in the third round is a small loss, like massive win. Javonte could be going in the top 3 picks next year if things shake out. But like, even if he split, what if it's 60-40 Javonte, even if it's 50-50, like on this offense, you're cool with Javonte. Like, you're not excited, but like, he's still going to have great games, so like, you can't really lose, but you can win on him. So those are the guys I want.
I think just the bow tie this, the one thing you just said is the epitome of why he should be rocket shipped. And it's, if you look to next year, if you were to guess a top 12 or a top 5 of people that are going to be drafted, nobody's going to be shocked if you say Javonte Williams is a top 5 pick next year.
Sure fucking shouldn't be.
Right? You know what I mean? So like, we're like, do you think that J.K. Dobbins is likely to be a top 1? Yeah, exactly. So like, that's no chance. Point. So when we start talking, even ETN, like, it's limited, and we're talking about they're only separated by a few picks. I'm just getting overweight on Javonte Williams. I mean, my Mahomes exposure is legendary at this point, so like, it's just my natural game stack is Javonte Williams, Patrick Mahomes, some sort of wide receiver that we'll get into. But let's talk about the last running back, which is Zeke. And I'm upset with myself about Zeke. I don't particularly love Zeke Elliott at all, but right when we started drafting these Best Ball Mania teams and he was a 5th rounder, I was looking at it and I'm like, he's in Dallas, the one team that would force him to play over Tony Pollard because it's Dallas.
Oh yeah.
And there is, unless he got hurt, and we don't even have to throw that caveat out there anymore, but unless he got hurt, the only way he wasn't going to move up the draft board was that. So just because casual drafters are going to come in, he's already starting to get slowly pushed up right through the drafts. Now he's a 4th rounder, somewhere in that wheelhouse. He's going to get pushed up to the 3rd slowly. He might even end, September as like a late 2nd rounder, or we see a preseason game and he does like one run where he breaks for 20 yards and that's all you're going to need. And it's just going to be stupid what his draft capital is going to be. So like, I wish that I drafted just a little bit more Zeke at the beginning of the year so I didn't have to draft him ever again.
Yeah. I have literally not drafted Ezekiel Elliott on a single team. I have 100. I'm looking at Underdog, 100 and something teams on Underdog, and similar on DraftKings, and I don't have an Ezekiel Elliott share, but I do think that's a little bit more of an ideological stance than it is a stance about Zeke. I'm just kind of looking to bet on a different scenario than I am looking to bet on Zeke. Mm-hmm. I also think it would be like kind of arrogance to say like, oh yeah, 5th round Zeke is a bad pick, or even honestly 4th round Zeke is like unreasonable. It's not my preference, but I don't think it's unreasonable to say I see the scenario where Zeke is still the workhorse on the fucking Cowboys, catching passes, getting the goal line work on a Dak Prescott led offense with a good offensive line in the 4th round. And like there's concerns. I have all those concerns. That's why I haven't drafted him. But I think average, I really do think Zeke is just like average. Like, there's obviously a case for Zeke. There's obviously a case against Zeke. And at this cost, it's like, whatever. I really feel like he's like, we've made him controversial, but I really actually don't think he's controversial at all.
Yeah, I agree. And I just looked up my exposure to all 3 of these running backs, and they are literally all 4%. I have 4, and I just looked up Best Ball Mania. I have 4% ownership on all 3 of these guys, which is pretty funny. All right, let's get into the one tight end that we put on this list, which is Kyle Pitts, who's going in the 3rd round. And I know you're a rocket ship on him, right?
Yep.
But let me bring you back down to earth a little bit.
Oh, what the fuck?
I don't hate Kyle Pitts. I am drafting him at a substantial rate. My concern is just the easy concern, right? It's the offense.
Yeah.
Like they have the worst quarterbacks to me in the league. That's the worst quarterback situation there is between Mariota and Ritter. I don't see we say that he's gonna bounce back on the touchdowns, and I obviously believe that he's gonna score more than one touchdown this year. Like that was an outlier. But I don't think the Atlanta Falcons are gonna score a lot of touchdowns this year. So just by the process of, like if he scores, 5, that would be amazing for him, in my opinion. Like to me, that's almost the ceiling. Is like 5 or 6 touchdowns for Kyle Pitts. I mean, we would hope he would do it week 17 with 2 or something like that. But I like Kyle Pitts. I think he is going to be a cheat code maybe the following year, where if you have Kyle Pitts and you're going to be able to get him at a good price because the offense is going to be so bad this year, and he just gets the best tight end season of all time, and you had to have Kyle Pitts to get to the playoffs, you had to have Kyle Pitts to win the championship, isn't going to shock me. I just don't think it's this year yet, so I am drafting him. That 3rd round price is a little steep to me.
I'm happy to put him in like average, which I think is basically what you described. You're not going to leave best ball draft season with no Kyle Pitts,
right?
But there are I agree, there are concerns. I mean, he's on what might be the worst team in the NFL. They're going to compete to be the worst team in the NFL. Now, there are also like perks to that, like Brandon Cooks-esque perks, but Brandon Cooks-esque perks at the tight end position, right? With a 21-year-old or whatever he is, that's
I get that. Yep.
Way fucking better than Brandon Cooks. And so definitely agree with everything that you outlined, but I think Pitts is another similar to Javon. That's why I would put him in rocket ship, because he's the definition of, I don't really know how you, other than injury, of course, I don't know how you lose on Kyle Pitts. It's he scores 1 touchdown again. Like I don't know. We Pete and I drafted him on our 8th overall BBM team, and used his score in the final. He didn't even make it to halftime. He got hurt in the championship round. We used his score, and he only scored 1 touchdown, and we made the BBM final and finished 8th with him, because like he's just that good. He's a superstar wide receiver playing tight end. So yeah, enough about Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm at 7% on him right now. I'd probably like to be slightly higher, but it's like
you got to get overweight on Kyle
Pitts. It's where he's going, and it's like, and we'll see. I still have like 75 teams to draft in BBM.
Yeah.
All right, Allen Robinson. So Allen Robinson is almost a ghost to me in terms of, I don't even dislike Allen Robinson. I want more Allen Robinson, but like everyone around him, I'm like, ooh, I want this guy, 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 I want this guy. And then all of a sudden I have no Allen Robinson, right? So that's who Allen Robinson is to me right now, especially you brought it up with J.K. Dobbins. He's right in that quarterback range. So I feel like he is a guy for me to get. I have to really make a concentrated effort of being like, all right, I grabbed some Chargers. I grabbed Mike Williams. Let me make an effort now to try to get Robinson as the bring back on this team or something like that, because otherwise he's just invisible to me in the draft board. And I'm looking all around him basically.
Yeah. He's really funny, where I'm similar to you, like unintentionally taking a stand against Allen Robinson.
Yep.
I get why people like him. Actually posted a tweet a while back that was like kind of totally joking about the Gabe Davis thing, but I just posted, people were really mad about, you can't take Gabe Davis in the whatever, at 50th overall or whatever it was, 40 something overall. And I just posted the ADP tier from Underdog specifically. I'm like, here's the wide receivers and here's the running backs that go around Gabe Davis. If you want to tell me you want to draft a quarterback or a tight end, you want to draft George Kittle or Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to argue with you. But tell me specific, like you also can't draft those guys in. I mean, I guess you can, but like you're probably not drafting them in every single draft. What running backs and what wide receivers are you drafting over Gabe Davis in this range? And A-Rob and Cooks were actually the most popular answers, and I was kind of flummoxed by the A-Rob takes because like I started digging into it more. Like, am I missing something that everybody loves A-Rob so much? And what I really think it is just like he's been good in his career, and maybe he's still good, but like he wasn't fucking good last year. He was the wide receiver.
I tossed last year out.
And I understand that. That's what everybody said, right? Which is really funny because they won't. They'll toss out Gabe Davis's like good games, and then they'll toss out Allen Robinson's bad season, right? But that's fine. I'm totally fine with that take. But everybody picks and chooses what they care about, right?
Right.
Is what I'm saying basically. Allen Robinson was this is not an exaggeration, wide receiver 91 last year. The wide receiver 91 in halfway. He scored 5.7 fantasy points per game in underdog scoring. I'm literally looking at it right now.
Better than I thought.
Everybody, yeah, exactly. Everybody thinks that Kenny Golladay was this huge bust. They scored the same amount of fantasy points per game. Olamide Zaccheaus on that horrible Falcons team. Olamide Zaccheaus, pretty close to the same points, 5.1. Let's see here. Josh Reynolds, more fantasy points. Jamal Agnew, more fantasy points. So like Darnell Mooney did fine. David Montgomery did fine on this offense. But everybody just writes it off for A-Rob. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm saying we're paying for we're absolutely just like Gabe Davis, just like Jerry Jeudy, just like Kyle Pitts, just like all these guys, Javonte, just like these guys where people make the argument that like we're paying for the upside scenario. You're doing the exact same thing for Allen Robinson. There's a very clear indication that it's over for Allen Robinson. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying there's a really clear indication that just happened. And we're like, oh, no, it's fine. Because it's fine. It doesn't matter that he's 29. It doesn't matter that, that he fell off last year, even though Darnell Mooney dunked on him. None of that matters because he's Allen Robinson. Remember 3 years ago? He was great. People pick and choose when to apply these things. And so I don't know. He's like slightly overrated to me. If we want to put him average, it's fine.
Well, let's do this. I just looked up my exposure on Allen Robinson and BBM.
I think I have 0.
Tell me what you have. I have 72 teams, I believe, drafted in BBM right now.
See, I only have 42 BBM teams. I've been smashed. I have 0 on DraftKings. Literally 0 Allen Robinson teams on DraftKings. Let me look on Underdog.
While you're doing that, I have what?
I have 5%. Allen Robinson.
I have 1%. I have 1 out of 72 teams that have Allen Robinson, and it actually shocked me because, like I said, I'm not completely against him at all. But like I was telling you, he's a guy that's there, and I'm just taking everyone around him.
That's how I feel too.
So I could even go Bahaha no because
he's closer to that for me than the other ones. Yeah.
And it's weird to say because I didn't think that's where we were going to put him until we start talking about it. And then I start looking at my numbers on him and it's unintentional, but I guess like maybe we're subconsciously just saying he's way overvalued. I think
I do. So I'm looking at it right now. I have 5% out of 42 BBM teams on Allen Robinson with an average ADP of 55. So his ADP right now is 48. So I was taking him, to your point, kind of when he was in a slightly different tier. He was not in those elite quarterbacks. He was not in, which we'll get to, Juju and Judy and all that. And I think that's important, right? He's now in that group, and like I'm not taking him now. I can't take him at pick 48. I just can't do it.
Right. So let's get to your favorite, Gabe Davis. Are you rocket shipping him?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, it's a little bit of kind of same thing as last year. I would do this with Trey Lance and whatever, Antonio Gibson, Darrington Evans, the guys. Will just attach to my brand. But I do think, kind of similar to what I said before about some of the disingenuous analysis, like as it revolves around Javonte. I really do think people are doing the same thing with Gabe Davis. So first, people are like, in the first 2 years, he hasn't done anything. Well, he was an early declare 21-year-old rookie out of UCF, 4th round pick with John Brown, an established player, and Stephon Diggs. And he's only an outside receiver. So he's not going to, Cole Beasley doesn't matter to him. Right. He has to beat, he's not going to beat out as a 4th round pick, John Brown and Stephon Diggs on the Bills. Those are this was like peak John Brown too. And obviously Stephon Diggs was like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL that year. There was no real path to him at that stage earning.
Teams still develop guys.
That's how it works.
It seems like people forget this. And God, I can't imagine some of the people that watch football today try to go back and watch football in the 90s and apply fantasy sense, because guys did not get on the field as rookies. Like, you had to be super special, right? To even think about seeing the field as a rookie. So sometimes these guys do know their job occasionally. I know we call them all idiots and no one knows what they're doing in the NFL, but occasionally, like, they can look at a guy and be like, this guy has raw talent. He's going to be great. He is not ready to step on an NFL field yet. And if he gets out there the first year and we feed him to the wolves, he's going to be toast. And we see it happen more so with quarterbacks, but it happens with rookies too. Who's the guy in Philly? Rager. That could be what happened to Rager. They could have just fed him to the wolves too quick, and now his career is ruined.
Over.
Right? Done. So sometimes you got to let a guy develop, and maybe that is by sitting a year or two, and then you can start to see the breakout. So we saw some of it last year. And when you got into your big Twitter rant with people, the only thing I jumped in and said is like, don't tell me you're not drafting Gabe Davis and then let me see you draft Mike Williams in the 2nd round. Because to me, right now, they're the same player. And if anything, Gabe Davis has more upside. But right now, like, to me, they are the most comparable players on that for Gabe Davis is Mike Williams. Oh, and he's 2 rounds ahead of him, right? So what I would say is I'm in on Gabe Davis. Do I like the 4th round price tag? Who does? Nobody.
Of course not.
It's a scary proposition, but in order to win these things, you have to get these scary propositions sometimes. So yeah, I'm with you on it. And if I cut you off, I'm sorry, but like I hate the whole, well, he didn't do much his rookie year. It's like, yeah, because he was a rookie. Like, and sometimes they have to develop. And yes,
he was like 20. Wasn't he like 20 when he came into the NFL? It's like, dude, when I was 20, I the only thing I knew how to do was like shotgun a beer. And this dude was having to play wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, like in December in the cold in New England,
or going up against Tre'Davious White every day at practice.
But what I actually like that you you absolutely nailed it with what you said. But what I really generally think about Gabe Davis is, like I said, just that he has become kind of a meme. And so why I go to bat for him is because the analysis is so, like I said, disingenuous around him. It's like, we can't ever be subjective once, this player, how could he possibly go in the 4th round? It's like, well, he's going to play probably 100% of the snaps on the best offense in the NFL that's going to have the highest pass rate in the NFL, that's going to maybe score the most points in the NFL. And he's and he's 6'4" and 230 pounds, and he runs a 4.40, and he just scored 50 fantasy points in a playoff game.
Right.
And one of my favorite things that people don't ever like when I cite this, but Lord Reeves, Rich Rebar, who's one of my favorite people in the entire fantasy football space, and I'm not saying he was referencing this when he mentioned this, but he said something several years ago that will literally always stick with me. That is, when you prove a skill, when you demonstrate a skill, you own that. It is now owned. You have that, right? When Deshaun Jackson was able to fly by guys and catch deep balls, He was now that he owns that skill. It
Right.
doesn't disappear, right? He has that.
Right.
When Gabe did what he did in that playoff game, our fantasy football market decides, oh, all these idiots are going to steam him up because it's one game and he had this big game. But now you just saw what the ceiling was playing 100% of snaps with his skill set for the Buffalo Bills. Emmanuel Sanders is gone. There aren't that scenario is now what he's entering this season doing. There are reasons to believe him and Diggs could be like 1A, 1B because they didn't, Cole Beasley is gone. Jamison Crowder and Isaiah McKenzie, they're not going to like steal so much work you care about. It's like he's like competing with Stephon Diggs for 1A, 1B status as opposed to like worrying about
helps.
and Diggs. I love Diggs. I'm drafting plenty of Diggs, but he's getting older. There's reasons to believe. I'm not saying he took a step back last year. It could have been variance, but there's reasons to believe he took a step back. What if Gabe is ascending and Diggs is like kind of, peaking? It's like you don't have to like go into your draft, portfolio and say, I'm going to take a huge stand on Gabe Davis, kind of like I am. But I think being that stubborn guy that just says, oh no, 4th or 5th round Gabe Davis, that's ridiculous. He's never done it before. I think that's bad process. And that's really all kind of my general stance on him.
So just to wrap this up, just to figure out like how big of a stand you're taking, what's your ownership percentage roughly on whatever you want to pick?
I have, so it's also a little bit difficult because in BBM right now, like I said, I've drafted 42 teams and I have not been drafting in BBM.
Right.
Of late. I have 43% Gabe Davis, and my average ADP on Gabe Davis is 54th overall. He's going 43.5 right now.
Yeah,
so
beautiful.
I was smashing him.
I wish I got more of them then.
I basically when it opened, I was like, I'm just taking him in every draft on DraftKings. I'm looking right now. I have 35% at an average ADP of 50.4, and he's going 45. So not quite as good of a value on DraftKings, but another reason, like I'm smashing him right now. If he keeps rising, I can eventually back off, right? If I reach a point where I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think I'm doing that with certain players too. I wish I had more of him. I'm only at 9% in BBM on him. But I just looked up my Diggs exposure because I think that's affecting it a little bit. I'm at 16% on Diggs, so I'm not specifically grabbing Davis. So can you combine them at obviously 25%? And I'm trying to get one of them, specifically Diggs, in the back end of the first. So let's hit Jerry Jeudy real quick, who is the epitome of mid to me because I like the Broncos. I like all the Broncos players. I prefer Javonte Williams of all the Broncos, of course, but then Cortland Sutton, I do like a little bit better than Jerry Jeudy. Maybe it's a safety net thing. Maybe I should be looking at Jeudy a little bit more because he is a round or two past Sutton. And I'm not avoiding Jerry Jeudy. I'm still trying to get him. The only Bronco I'm really avoiding at this moment is KJ Hamler. I was drafting him, and now I'm just kind of, the more I think about it, the more I'm just out on Hamler. Like, I think just so much has to go right for him to be completely viable. But I like Jeudy. I don't need to argue about him either way, to be honest. I think he's fine where he's getting drafted. And I think if you're trying to game stack that game, Judy's a great option because of where he's going in drafts.
Yep. Similar to who were we talking about earlier? That was supposedly Zeke, supposedly controversial, but I actually don't think he's really controversial. I think there's a very clear reasons to draft Jerry Jeudy where he's going. There's also a very clear downside to Jerry Jeudy, but that's like a Broncos thing.
Yeah,
they brought in Russell Wilson. The whole thing is uncertain, and so people latch on to one side or the other, like the upside case or the downside case, when in reality it's like, I don't know. I think he should go about where he goes because he's a really good football player. He's a high-end first-round pick. Now he has Russell Wilson. Maybe he's the better Tyler Lockett. I don't know. Or maybe Cortland Sutton is the man and Tim Patrick's playing and Alberto, right? I don't know. No one really knows, but there's a reason to bet on him where he goes. And I think he's kind of been a little bit memed, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So mid is 100% the perfect spot for him.
All right, let's do all three of these Kansas City wide receivers at the same time. So we got Smith-Schuster, we got Valdez, Scantling, MVS, and we have Sky Moore. So let's just put them in their spots, and then we'll talk about it. Smith-Schuster, where would you have him?
Ooh. Slightly under. Oh, damn. These guys are the toughest ones.
Oh, there's one of them's very easy for me.
Well, I know it's MVS. I know it. Yeah. We're going to do I'm interested in your take actually on these three. Here, my rapid fire. Juju is average. MVS is rocket ship, and Sky Moore is slightly underrated.
God damn it. This is my exact stance on all of them. Obviously MVS, I'm rocket shipping. I mean, my exposure on this dude is just absolutely. I have him 46% in BBM right now.
I'm mad. I'm jealous. I want like 100%. Like if I could have like it sounds ridiculous. I wish I had more. I have 34% on DraftKings, which I feel okay about that.
Yep.
1 second. And then I have 31% in BBM, which again, it's only 42 teams. But like, I wish I just fucking drafted him when he was going in the hundreds or whatever.
Yeah.
Why? You're an idiot. Why didn't you just draft him every time?
I was drafting him every time then, and I'm still drafting him like almost every time now. The two guys around that area that I'm getting crazy on is Christian Kirk and MVS, or I'm just grabbing them in those back-to-back rounds a lot of the time. And they're usually like my fourth and fifth or fifth and sixth wide receivers. And I'm like, I'm going into this league with MVS as my sixth wide receiver a lot of the times, or fifth wide receiver. And I feel great about it. You're putting him on that offense. We saw him flash on the slowest offense in the league. Granted, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, whatever we want to say about him. He's got an arm. But I just think the Chiefs are going to utilize him to his max potential, right? Like if anyone's going to get the MVS close to Pro Bowl season, it's going to be the Chiefs this year. Juju, I like a lot. I think that there's some real upside there, but he's a sixth rounder right now. So
fifth, sixth, yeah.
Fifth, sixth. Yeah, and it's just like I'd rather have the upside of MVS over the safety net of Juju, it feels like. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Especially when they're 5 rounds apart.
Yeah, same with Sky. Same thing for me with Sky, yeah.
Yeah, and then Sky I like because now I can get him like 11th or 12th round. So if somehow I miss out, and I love the Chiefs wide receivers because no matter what, somehow the Chiefs are the easiest team to stack right now, which is
Patrick fucking Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they're the easiest team to stack. Riddle me that.
38% Mahomes right now, just because it's so easy to stack and bring them back for week 17, and I can do whatever I want with the Chiefs. When are we ever going to say that again? When are we ever going to be like, never, right?
This year is because we're going to find out in a couple of months. We're going to find out what plays out, right?
Right.
Maybe it's just Kelsey, but then we're going to find out it's Kelsey. Maybe Sky Moore is the breakout. Maybe Juju catches 125 passes. I don't know, but we're going to find out very soon. And then we're not going to be able to do this thing again. So yeah.
It's going to be so obvious at that point. And like, so Juju I have at 19% and Sky Moore a little bit under at 12%, but that's going to come up just because now he's shot below MVS. So I'll be grabbing more of him because I'm not going to stop drafting Mahomes. I was like, well, maybe at 40% Mahomes roughly, I can stop drafting him. And I'm like, he's going around everyone else and he's probably still the best quarterback in the league. And I'm getting that discount on him. And I'm just going to keep smashing, to be honest. And it's one of those things where like, if I lose because I drafted a lot of Mahomes, so be it. Like, just so be it.
And you're not going to lose because you drafted a lot of Mahomes. That's like, it's like
Right.
the thing about Patrick Mahomes is that like you may not end up winning because of Patrick Mahomes, but you're not going to lose because you drafted Patrick Mahomes. The only thing I was just going to add is with the MVS thing, again, why he's in that rocket ship is the same thing from a small loss, big win. He is the epitome of a best ball wide receiver. Even if his role doesn't grow and he's just playing on the outside, being a souped up version of Demarcus Robinson catching deep balls, you're going to get multiple weeks where you're really excited about having him on your team.
Right.
And there are reports that like, and they paid him as such to where he's not that they could sign anybody to just be a deep ball guy. They paid him a little bit of money, and it's so ambiguous in their passing game, and you have to replace almost 30% of the target share with Tyreek Hill, not even counting for Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson, that like, what if, I know no one ever wants to entertain this. This is what triggers me, actually, more than the Gabe Davis shit. No one will ever entertain the fact that, like, yes, MVS never earned a greater role with the Packers, but like, there is a percentage chance that he is like a 20% target share player plus the downfield stuff.
Right.
And it's like that with Patrick Mahomes is like a 5th round pick, and you can get him in the 9th round. So like, just fucking draft that guy because his floor is like a break-even player, and his ceiling is like the best pick in fantasy.
And what I would say is we have to draft him in the next 3 weeks, because once we get to that week 1 preseason game, if he houses one, I don't even care how far it is. If it's a 20-yard one that he houses, his price is going up 3-4 rounds. He's going to
whoever pulls the Marquez Callaway. If any of my guys pull the Marquez Callaway in preseason, I'm going to be so fucking triggered, because like, I just want to keep drafting MVS.
Right.
And if he does that, he has the 4 for 150 and 2 or whatever in the preseason. It's like, he's going to go from the 9th round. Okay. Yeah, we have to stop, because he's going to go to the like 5th or 6th round.
And to me, he's the player, and that's why I'm drafting a ton of Kirk too, because I just see I see week 1 preseason happening where they're going to make this concerted effort to force feed Kirk the ball to get that relationship going, and he just houses one in week 1 of the preseason, and then everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, Christian Kirk is that dude, and then they just start flying up the draft board. So like, I'm hammering those 2 guys right now. All right, let's hit these 2 wide receivers in the NFC South. Let's go with Russell Gage. No, I'm not. Are you drafting him?
Oh, this is a good one. We finally disagree a little bit. I'm not especially drafting Russell Gage, but I was thinking about this today when we had this show theme. Why is it that everyone is dunking on this Bucs wide receiver when, think about this, the entire Bucs offense smashed last year in fantasy football? Now Gronk is gone, and they replaced him with Cameron Brate and Cade Otton. Cameron Brate cannot do what Gronk can do, so we theoretically should move some targets and some production from Gronk to elsewhere in the offense. Leonard Fournette weighs about as much as a fridge. How much does a fridge weigh? More than 260 pounds. Or
probably,
give or take. Yeah. I don't know. I can't lift it, so probably about the same.
Can't lift Leonard Fournette either. So
yeah, exactly. So Lenny is, just eating Milky Ways, enjoying his millie he just got paid. And Chris Godwin, who is one of my favorite players in the entire NFL, tore his ACL not that long ago. And so Mike Evans can only earn so many targets. Antonio Brown was, even when everyone was healthy last year, Mike Evans was good. Chris Godwin was good. Gronk was still good. Lenny was still good. All these guys were good. AB was good. AB was actually like a total stone cold smash. I know he's really good. I'm not saying Russell Gage is the Antonio Brown, but there's a lot of production to be had in this offense. And I think I know I'm arguing literally to bump him up from bahaha no to slightly overrated because he's being overdrafted. But I think our kind of bubble has really shit on Russell Gage when even when Godwin comes back, if there's no Gronk, Mike Evans isn't going to earn that many targets, and Chris Godwin is still coming back from an ACL. There's a lot of production to go around on a Tom Brady offense, and I think it's kind of 6th or 7th round Russell Gage. I don't know. That seems kind of fine to me.
Yeah, it probably makes sense. And if anyone's going to elevate a player, I'm going to be Team Brady for that,
Yeah.
right? So, but I guess my whole thing is I think that he's going to start off strong and fade out. Just feels like the way Russell Gage is going to go, which is the opposite of a guy that I want a guy doing from that high of a draft capital.
But what if he doesn't though? What if
he
doesn't?
he could definitely keep going. I guess my
Everyone
other thing
says
is
that. I'm not trying to cut you off,
No,
but
go
that's
ahead.
just the thing I hear in our bubble. Everyone just keeps saying oh, ha ha ha, Russell Gage, you're drafting him because in week 1 he's going to be really good. But what if he's just a big part of the offense the entire year? Brady wanted him, and Brady wanted Lenny, and then we saw what happened with Lenny. And Brady wanted Gronk. We saw what happened with Gronk. What if he's just a big part of the offense the entire season, and we're being kind of stubborn about him? That's the only. I'm literally saying he's overrated, but I also think our little bubble has kind of made him a meme that is maybe not as much deserving as we think it is.
I guess my whole thing is I'm betting more on Rachaad White, which I know they're obviously different positions, but I think that they're going to try to start doing a little bit more of the New England style offense. And the concern is Rachaad White's a rookie, and Brady and rookie running backs. I haven't heard anyone else bring this up, but it just usually doesn't mix so well all the time, because he doesn't like to bring them in on third downs because they can't pick up pass protection.
I know.
And
if Rachaad White can't pass protect, I'm going to lose my shit because I'm going to lose a lot of money because I have so much Rachaad White.
So I don't hate Gage. It feels really steep is all.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and I guess my other thing in the back of my head is when we get some more casual drafters in, which are starting to filter in a little here and there, but the floodgates are coming soon. Are they going to look at Russell Gage and be like, absolutely no way? And then I can get him in the 8th round, and then I feel
or
better
the opposite.
about it.
Or are they going to say Chris Godwin is hurt? There's Rob Gronkowski is retired. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, if we're talking about 5th round Russell Gage, I'm not interested in that. But I do think
I'll give you slightly overrated. How about that?
Yeah. Russell Gage is above A-Rob on this. How funny is that? I don't think people would have expected that. We're about to get into somebody else who is definitely a triggering one. You go first on MT because I
can't do it. I'm already not in on the Saints offense as a whole, right? And I understand that Michael Thomas, when optimal, is one of the elite talents in the league. Jameis Winston is the type of dude that could get him the ball, but we're talking about a 2-year injury now, a guy that doesn't want to play for this team, regardless of the whole makeup thing, whatever the hell's happened over the last few months, right? Everything is telling you not to draft this guy, and I'm not drafting this guy. I have literally auto-picked him once or twice, and that is my exposure to Michael Thomas right now. Just from auto picks. 2%, 2 teams, and I know they were both auto-drafted in BBM. I know that for sure. I did one on stream.
I think we're the you fucking streamed a draft and auto-drafted Michael Thomas. Did I pay you for that?
I was showing off the Spike Week tools when I auto-drafted him.
I have one Michael Thomas team too, so I can't really really say anything. But put this motherfucker in the bahaha no, because this is actually really funny. If you're in the Spike Week Discord, you're probably gonna like laugh at this because I have actually, there are people in our Discord who are like, it's over for Michael Thomas. Some say they have like, you know how it goes in online community. Some say they have like insider info and stuff, which I don't believe, but people are posting a lot of really interesting information about Michael Thomas in terms of his ankle. And then Michael Thomas is posting videos and like, I don't know, he looks like me trying to work out like on a, like it doesn't, it's like, it's almost like he's posting it like he thinks it's a good look. And like he looks so bad that I'm like, this is not a good sign. And he's not getting any younger. And I think the market is still just like, oh, but he's Michael Thomas. And that's what that's why there's a baha no with Allen Robinson, is because the market is like, oh, but he's still Allen Robinson. But like these guys, like father time and injuries come for everybody in football. And I think that's what has happened with Michael Thomas. And like I said, shout out to all of the people in our Discord, because I've tried to play a little bit of I have literally not drafted Michael Thomas, but I've tried to play a little bit of the devil's advocate to be like, I want to hear what you guys are really kind of processing with this situation. And I just don't see a scenario in which he's really worth this, whatever, 7th or 8th round pick, given the age, Jameis, the offense getting worse. Sean Payton is gone. They brought in Jarvis Landry. They drafted Chris Olave. There's just so many hurdles for him to be a fantasy pick that is like a difference maker at his cost. And I get if you're just like, oh no, he's Michael Thomas and he's healthy, and you want to draft him for that. I don't think that's unreasonable, but I disagree.
I did see a comment in the chat that I just want to hit real quick. It said, wait, MVS is a good wide receiver now. He couldn't do it with Rodgers, LOL. It's like, we kind of hit on it, though. Yeah, he wasn't a Pro Bowl caliber, but you look at the offense, right? It's a tale of two cities with these offenses on what they're actually trying to do. And when MVS flashed what he flashed, if he can bring that over, those flashes to Kansas City, it is going to be expanded upon, is what we're saying.
I don't think that MVS is like a good superstar, well-rounded wide receiver. That's actually not what we're saying. But this game that we're playing is a bet on probabilities. And like Aaron, he dropped passes. He was a young, not ready to play wide receiver out of a college that did not prepare him for the NFL. And so Rodgers has proven to not be Allen Lazard is getting drafted really high right now. That dude did not get to play right away when he was playing with Aaron Rodgers. It takes time.
Right.
And MVS dropped some bad passes. And it just didn't work out for him in Green Bay as kind of a raw prospect. But that doesn't mean there isn't a scenario in which he is a like above average wide receiver in the NFL. And guess what? Now he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. And like, that's the kind of thing we want to invest in when we already know that the floor is like, I don't know, how many 50-yard touchdowns is he going to catch this year? If you had to like set an over under 2.5.
That's actually, I was going to say 3. So that's actually perfect.
Right. Yeah. So 2.5. So, okay. I guarantee myself 2 weeks of this 9th round wide receiver. You tell me another 9th round wide receiver that I'm going to get though, right. So it's kind of like free money, I think.
Right. All right. Let's hit on the last 2, which are both Dallas Cowboys. We could have actually put every single Dallas Cowboy on this list. Mm-hmm. We did Zeke earlier, but let's do CD and let's do Schultz. Is there one you want to hit on first?
You do CD first. I want to hear your CD take.
CD scares the hell out of me because right now my CD Lamb exposure on just Best Ball Mania is, oh my God, it's 0%. And I didn't even know that. So I've drafted 71, 72 teams, and I have 0%
You have
CD
zero
Lamb,
CD?
and that's not on purpose. I have them in other stuff. I know I do, but it's got to be low. And I guess that's because of everyone else I'm drafting around that range, which is Kelsey, Diggs. I don't know, dude. I don't even dislike CD. It just feels like, again, he's almost like Allen Robinson, where the opportunity cost is just so high. Like we're talking, and I never see that dude slip. He never falls, which shocks me too. He's never you're never middle second and oh, CD Lamb is still here. Like he's right around those first 3 picks every time I draft in the second round. So I guess he's just a guy that I've been looking at everyone else around him. And now I'm kind of like, oh shit, I don't have any CD Lamb in Best Ball Mania. How do I correct this? And do I want to correct it? So it's not a purposeful stance, to be honest. I'm actually shocked that I'm at 0% CD Lamb.
He's definitely the epitome of slightly overrated to me, where he's like a 2-3 turn early 3rd round pick or whatever. But this year is so weird.
Yeah.
That after those, to me, I know not everyone agrees. I include Kelsey in that top 6. You get past the top 5 is what everybody talks about, right?
Mm-hmm.
JT, CMC, Cup, Jefferson, Chase. You get past that, and honestly, I like Kelsey, but after that, there's a whole group of what is really the fucking difference between 15 of those guys? Honestly, it's a huge tier. And so CD gets dropped into a spot in the ADP that I don't really think he deserves. He hasn't done anything to. The only reason is we memed him into the 2-3 turn and then Amari left.
Yeah.
But he didn't earn it last year. And so I don't want to say no, because I have drafted some CD Lamb, but we are really priced into a spot that he has to be in that next group, after all those superstars. And I'm not.
He's getting drafted over Mike Evans. He's getting drafted over Deebo Samuel. He's getting drafted.
Why does he go over Deebo? Why does he go over
Dude,
Deebo?
See, that's the thing. It's I'll grab Deebo there sometimes. Why would I draft CD Lamb over Deebo at this point, other than if you were really scared that Deebo wasn't going to play for some reason this year, which I don't think anyone is, right?
He's not going to forfeit millions of dollars.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are we worried about? And I'd rather have AJ Brown than CD Lamb, if I'm going to be completely honest.
What's the difference?
Right. I just
why Deebo has been better than CD Lamb. AJ Brown has been better than CD Lamb. Mike Evans has been better than CD Lamb. Tyreek Hill has been better than CD Lamb. We're just projecting growth onto CD Lamb. Oh, I like CD Lamb.
So do
I'm excited for him. But we've put him at the 1-2 turn. Why the fuck is he going at the 1-2 turn?
I guess it just feels wrong. There's just certain guys that just feel like they're wrongly priced, and I have trouble clicking it. And that's probably some sort of mental tick that I need to address occasionally. But it's so tough to press the button on him when those other guys are all around him.
What is his ceiling? Pure Deebo Samuel, if you removed every ounce of rushing production he did last year, is the wide receiver 10.
Mm-hmm.
If CD's floor was the wide receiver 10, he would go in the middle of the first round.
Right.
But the dude wasn't anywhere close to this. So why does he get drafted over Tyreek Hill, one of the best fantasy wide receivers of the last 5 years, and one of the best,
another great name,
and one of the best, and AJ Brown, one of the most efficient wide receivers of the last 3 years. And I really love CD Lamb, but I just don't get why he goes where he goes.
I think what we need to remind the chat too is maybe we didn't make this clear enough in the beginning. We're baking in ADP right now as a big part of this board as well. So that's why like in a vacuum, I like CeeDee Lamb a lot. I would draft him a lot. I like, Allen Robinson enough, but just where their ADP is, it just feels way out of sorts for me. So we'll put him in the yawn, even though I've taken this involuntary stand or unintentional stand against him. I will make it a point to go draft some CD here and there. But going to his teammate Dalton Schultz, this ADP, I don't understand at all. I literally don't understand it. And I guess I'm just way more out on the Cowboys as a whole because I think they're all pretty much mostly overpriced other than Dak, I guess. The only reason Dak's not overpriced is just because of the way the QB market is right now. But Schultz is, how did he steam up? So I don't understand. Was somebody touting him and it just steamed him 4 rounds? Right? Are you in on this Schultz thing?
My average ADP in Best Ball Mania on Schultz is 96. His current ADP is 66. So that tells you about, I was drafting him when he was going, in the 9th round or whatever, just to sprinkle him in that Schultz, Hawkinson, Goddard tier or whatever. And to your point, I think I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I'm struggling to come up with the words on what, Dalton Schultz had a fine year last year and Amari is gone. So we have to project some kind of volume into that offense. And so people are giving it to him, but this is Gary Barnage level, Logan Thomas level. We're just giving volume to this guy because, there's nobody else in the offense. And I know the Cowboys offense is a little bit different or whatever, but you can't take a tight end in the 6th round. He is, let's just get this out of the way. He is no for me, for Dalton Schultz at this current cost. I do not get it. Not because he's not going to have a good year. Maybe he does have a good year for the Cowboys. But from a fantasy football perspective, please tell me how 6th round or 7th round Dalton Schultz is winning you a $2 million on Underdog. Because I sure as shit don't see it.
Yeah, tell me how he's different than 13th round or 12th round Mike Gesicki.
Or Hunter Henry.
Or that range of
David Njoku.
Right. I find Goddard and Hawkinson more intriguing, and they're going after him now.
Why do they go after him?
They're better. Understand.
They're better at football, and there's not that much of a difference in terms of volume opportunity. And he goes way before them. It's so weird.
I don't get it. It just every time once I start creeping up the board, I'm like, what is he doing? Where is he going? Who does he think he is? And he just starts creeping by me. He just starts creeping by these guys. And he gets to the 6th round. And I'm like, I'm already having a tough time drafting Dallas Cowboys as it is. At least Schultz in the 10th, I was squeamishly ready to press the button. I just looked, I pressed it once out of 71 teams. And now I can't even now it makes me want to gag thinking about, I'd almost rather eat the hot dogs again than draft Dalton Schultz where he's going.
No. Please, God,
you know what I mean? It's that bad to me. To me, he's the most egregiously priced player in all of best ball or drafts or anything.
I think so
right
too.
Now. It just, I look at it. I'm just there's no effing way. And I'll do it once or twice because the next thing I'm doing, just speaking of the Spike Week tools, now that I'm at almost 75 drafts, I'm going to take a few days and I'm going to go through and I'm going to see what my game stacks are, see what game stacks I'm missing. I know Dallas is going to be a part of the ones that I'm missing for the most part. And I'll find a way to get a Dallas game stack with one Tennessee, it makes me sick thinking about it, with the Tennessee bring back at some point, like, and I'll get a Schultz exposure there, but I think that's it. I'm not one-offing Schultz. Like, if I'm getting Schultz, it's with some specific plan in mind for that specific team. And other than that, I'm never looking like, oh, Schultz is still on the board, because I don't care, because he's too high. I mean, you can tell me if someone wants to call us crazy for that, then, you know. And Terrence brings up a good point. Where will Dak's production come from? And I get that. And I think that they will produce. I don't know if they're going to be an elite offense this year. So I don't know if it's going to be any one or two guys, or if it's going to be spread out. I like Tolbert, honestly. He's my favorite Cowboy to draft right now. I'm drafting Jalen Tolbert at a pretty high clip at the moment.
This is I don't disagree with this comment. However, this is the false trap that people fall into. This is what I would call the Mike Davis of fantasy football.
Okay,
say,
that's a fair. I get it.
I have to put production in Dallas, and so where does it go? And you're like, I don't know. I give it to CD, and I give it to Schultz because Tolbert's a rookie, and I don't know what to do with him. Gallup's hurt, and James Washington has sucked. And you're like, then we got Zeke and Pollard, whatever. So you just assign production to Mike Davis because you're like, I don't know.
Yep.
But you're giving just the same thing with Mike Davis. You're giving production to players who haven't earned it from a talent perspective. And then what happens with Mike Davis, right? Cordero Patterson steals it. And like, did you project that? Could you project that? No. Nope. But you overdrafted a player solely because you didn't know nowhere else to give that production to. And that is like one of the biggest things you can do wrong, in my opinion, in fantasy drafts. And that's actually why, like, all the guys at the bottom of this screen that you're looking at right now, that's why they're like, not why we don't think you should draft them. It's because people are just assigning them production when in reality it's like, it's really, really, really uncertain. Whereas the rocket ship guys are actually the most uncertain situations.
Right.
Javante's crazy uncertain. Gabe and MVS are crazy uncertain. Trey Lance, Tua, Sky Moore, all these guys are super uncertain, but that's where you win. The guys where you say, oh, it's Mike Davis and Quadri Allison is his backup, or JV and Hawkins. So I'm just going to give him all this production and draft him in the 5th round. Well, guess what? He's not a 5th round caliber NFL player. So you give him this, and the next thing you know, Cordell Patterson stole his job. And like, that's kind of the lesson from all of this, in my opinion, is that you can't just do the Dalton Schultz is going to get this much production because I don't know where else to give. Maybe to your point, I agree with you. It's Jalen Tolbert. It's like, this is the guy who has the widest range of outcomes. Maybe he doesn't steal Dalton Schultz production, but he has the chance to be, I don't know, a 6th round pick next year, a 5th round pick next year. Right. And he's going in the 15th. So take that dude. Don't take Dalton Schultz in the 6th round. Take the dude who's going later, who could like just literally totally crush. Honestly, we have CD down there, but I can at least, like, he's only slightly overrated because like there is a realistic scenario that he's going in that Diggs, Devontae, or whatever.
I think
range.
Just to expand upon that point with CD that you were making earlier, as you bring it up towards the end here, is I think every guy around him has a viable pathway to being the number 1 overall wide receiver. And I don't think CD does, to be perfectly honest. I think he has a pathway to be like definitely a top 10, but more probably towards that back end of the top 10, where like Debo, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown all realistically have a chance of being the number 1 overall. It's low, like, because I think some of the top end guys are still higher. But like, I guess maybe that's what I'm thinking when I'm drafting. I'm like, who has winning potential for me? And not that he doesn't, but just all these other guys around him are just like way higher and on my list.
Gabriel Davis and Juju have a better chance of being a top, not top one. I'm trying to think of how to frame this. Gabe Davis and Juju have a better chance of being a top 3 wide receiver than CD does. CD has that in his range, but the probability is lower than Juju, and CD might be better than Gabe and Juju, but the probability is lower. When has a fucking Cowboys wide receiver ever been this super, like, we're excited about the Cowboys, I guess, and like I was that donkey last year, excited
We all
about
were.
the Cowboys. Yeah, we all did this stupid bullshit, but
We
like,
were all excited about them, and that's the only Week 17 game we cared about was Dallas and Arizona.
but why is CD better than these other guys? I don't, other than Amari's gone.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I like CD. I was drafting a shit ton of CD last year. I love CD Lamb as a player, but it's just one example of where we're like assigning production to a player who hasn't necessarily earned it, him and Schultz.
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. We should probably get out of here at this
Yeah.
point. We have spent a long time on this board. We end up talking, and it ends up becoming a really interesting conversation. But now we know to do maybe a few less players next time when we do something like this. Anything you want to pitch? I think everyone should go get the Spike Week tools if they haven't, just for some of the conversation that we were having. I think the fascinating part was when you were bringing up players that you were drafting and what your average ADP was for some of these players and why you were drafting them there, and now why you don't have to draft them at this particular spot. So, like, to me, that really jumps out.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many things that we built with the Spike Week tools that are for, if you're listening to this, you're a best ball player and drafting on Underdog, DraftKings, Drafters, FFPC, whatever. And we built it with you guys in mind. And I think being able to see, like Rob said, the average ADP I got a player at. So, like, if I don't want to draft Gabe Davis ever again, I'm good because I got really good prices on him. Same thing with some of the other players we talked about, and like a million other things that go into the tools. I won't try to sit here and sell you guys like crazy, but I think if you're seriously playing best ball, that's definitely the big thing. I feel so much more knowledgeable about the conversations that we just had today because I, have access to Draft IQ and some of the stuff that we're putting together at Spike Week. Just go to spikeweek.com/go-premium and you can get access. It'll be in the comments after this. But I think that's it. Anything else?
Nope, that's it for me. I got another show to get ready for. So
yeah.
We will talk to you guys next week. Peace.